It was only when my outer world was stripped from me, right? The job, the accolades, the approval from agents and casting people and networks and all of that. The dream of getting pregnant, like for 12 years, I was like, what is happening? But when all of that was stripped away, could I still know who I was? Could I still feel good about myself? And the answer was no, I couldn't.
Welcome to the Shaping Freedom podcast, where we dive into conversations that inspire personal growth, transformation, and clarity in challenging times. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. Today, I am so excited and feel honored to have a truly remarkable guest with us today. Rhonda Ross is an Emmy-nominated actor, a Grammy-nominated songwriter, a motivational speaker, and the powerhouse behind the Magic of Mindset community and the Happy Toolbox self-empowerment courses. Beyond her incredible achievements, Rhonda's journey is one of resilience, self-discovery, and transformation. She's doing her work. She's opened up about overcoming feelings of being unseen, battling negative self-talk, and breaking free from limiting beliefs to create a life of emotional balance and purpose. This conversation is for anyone who has ever struggled with their inner critic or wondered how to turn their pain into power. So, friends, grab a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, settle in, and listen in to this heartfelt and transformative chat that we're getting ready to have with Rhonda Ross. Rhonda, welcome to the show. I'm so honored again to have you here.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm so happy we were able to make this happen. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I first started to follow you and notice you when I online on the internets on Instagram, you know. And what I really appreciate about you is your authenticity and your vulnerability and your willingness to share your experiences and how you are observing and living on this planet. And I think that that's very important, especially for people who are themselves struggling. So what I'd love to know is, one of the things that you spoke about is, or that you do speak about, is your addiction to self-talk. And when I read that, it jumped off of the page because there are so many of us who can relate to that. And very often we believe that it's something that's experienced by us, not other people.
That's right.
And for someone as public as you are, for you to experience that and to share about it openly, I'd love for you to share a little bit about how you recognize that and tell me about that. What is it?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. Well, we're jumping right in. Here we go.
Let's do it.
First of all, I want to thank you for that lovely introduction. It was humbling because when I hear those words, especially words about, you said something about my living a life with purpose. And when I hear those words, I'm blown away because it really wasn't always like that. 20 or more years ago, I was on the soap opera Another World. And it felt like my career was on the fast track to everything good, right? I was Emmy-nominated for my role. I was doing movies. One of the movies I did was Temptations, which has become like this cult favorite that everyone texts me about.
Yes.
And so I was doing other movies. I was doing guest spots on TV shows, and I was on this soap opera with this Emmy nomination, and I was just riding high. I was newly married. We were about to start a family, or wanting to start a family, and everything was going great. And then the show got canceled. And, but I wasn't worried. Everyone was worried around me. And I wasn't worried because I was like, yo, my star keeps going, like I'm
That's
good.
right.
Yeah, I'm good. And if I've done this in daytime drama, wait till I get out to LA, which was my plan, to see what I'm going to do in nighttime drama. Right. And so primetime drama. And so, I moved out to Los Angeles and I looked forward to my greatness continuing. And it did not. When I tell you everything dried up, I didn't book anything, but more than that, I didn't even get any auditions. I didn't, I felt like I was never leaving the house. And,
What year was this?
this is, 2000,
Okay.
2000, end of 99 and into 2000.
Okay.
And, so nothing was moving. Nothing was moving. Meanwhile, my husband and I were bi-coastal marriage because he was in New York and I was in LA. We were wanting to start a family, but we can't get pregnant that way. And so, but on top of that, an infertility thing had started to happen with me. I ended up being dealing with infertility for 12 years. And that was the first, 2, 3, 4. And so here I was stuck in all the ways that we can get stuck. My career wasn't moving. My relationship was stalling. My plans for motherhood was stalling. And I found myself really in a dark place, darker than I had ever experienced, and a darkness that felt like it just was coming over me. Like there was nothing I could do about it. My life circumstances were dictating certain things, and there was nothing. I couldn't change the agents or the casting agents, or I couldn't make my body get pregnant. Like I couldn't do any of those things. And a depression came over me. I found myself not leaving the house, not leaving the bed. What I remember, Lisane, what I remember is that at 4 o'clock, Oprah would come on. And after Oprah, there was like a series of different things I could watch. I would just try to get through the day to 4 o'clock. Like just if I could make it to 4 o'clock. It was dark. And it stayed like that for a while. It stayed like that for months. I would come back to New York to visit my husband, and he would say, "What's happening to you?" And there was nothing he could say that could make me feel better. There was nothing he could do to make me feel better. I remember even saying that to him. You can't fix this. You fix this.
Yeah.
And so it was for months and months. It was probably over a year. And at my lowest point, I found myself saying, I can't stay here. I can't stay here. I've got to figure out how to pull myself out of this. Now, what I knew instinctively is I couldn't change anyone else. I couldn't make the agents see my value. I couldn't do anything to make anything else happen. I couldn't book myself on a TV show. I couldn't do any of those things, but I needed something to change.
Yeah.
Right around that time, as it is when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. I started to find these books about the power of thought. These books and these teachings and these teachers that were saying the outside world doesn't have to change for you to change. And for you, your outer world and your inner world are two separate spaces. And we are so many of us are so believing that if the outer world is a certain way, your inner world must be that way. But what I learned in that time was that there's a space between what happens to us and what we feel about what happens to us. And in that space live our thoughts. And our thoughts are actually what is determining our feelings, not the circumstances. We think it's the circumstances, but it's our thoughts.
Say that again for the people in the back.
People in the back.
Who are adamantly running up the hill with the torch.
Yes. Our thoughts determine our feelings, our thoughts. And we know that when you think about it, you can give yourself little tests. You can imagine, I don't know, eating a lemon. and you see how everything in your body reacts as if that is the truth, right? You can imagine drinking a cool glass of water and how everything in your body reacts as if that is the truth. You can feel what your thoughts are telling you to feel.
Mm.
And so once I grasped that, and that took a minute I had to teach it to myself. I had to test it on myself. I had to say, yeah, but what about this situation, right? Like I had to do that. But once I started to say, you know what? I think there's something to this. Then I started to ask myself, what were the thoughts? The thoughts are so quiet and so sneaky.
And quick.
And quick.
Just in and out. And you're like, wow, wait a minute. What just
You don't
happened?
even know you thought it.
Yeah.
And so I had to slow down and start to pay attention to my thoughts and then say, oh, I just thought that. I just had a negative thought that said I was no good. It's too late. I'm too old. I'm not talented. Whatever the thought was, like you said, it was quick. But now that I can see it, I can say, wait, nobody can feel good if they're having that thought.
Right.
Of course, why would I think that I could feel optimistic, safe, empowered, happy with those kinds of thoughts? So slowly I started to replace those thoughts with what I call INTs, intentionally nourishing thoughts, thoughts that make me feel better. And they don't have to be so far in the positive direction. Like they don't have to be, I'm amazing. It doesn't have to be that, but I'll try again tomorrow. Or, there's someone out there who will get me and my time will come. And, these kinds of thoughts that just slowly helped me climb out of that space. And that's why what I do now, and I appreciate all your words about, what I do on Instagram, et cetera, is because this realization was so life transforming for me. And I'm not going to say it's easy to do, but it's simple, right? It's not complicated. It's simple. You just have to practice it.
Yes.
And I just want everyone to know it because I really believe, Lisane, I really believe that so many of the things we look at in the world that we don't like, everything from little inequities or people being rude, all the way to genocide. All of these things are out there because people don't feel good. They don't feel safe. They don't feel loved. They don't feel empowered. They don't feel seen. And they are reaching out and trying to change their situation, their circumstances to feel better. And I know that feeling better is an inside job. And if we can feel better, we will do better. We'll be kinder to the people around us. So I want everyone to know this. So that's why I'm so passionate about it.
You are my people.
I know. You are my people. I know.
You are my people. People talk so much about like what they are doing. And I believe deeply that what is happening outside of us is a reflection of what's happening inside of us. And very often we are waiting for all the things, all the people outside of us to change so that we can step into who we really are. And it is such a powerful and deeply profound moment to have when you recognize the amount of power that we truly have to change.
It frees you.
It's so liberating.
The title of your podcast, it's freedom. When
it is.
You are no longer tethered to what anybody else does.
That's right.
Your happiness, your optimism, your sense of safety, when you are no longer tethered to that, you are completely free to live your life, to be happy, to go for your dreams, all of it.
Yeah. And it's so funny how people doubt that. It's like people embrace the horrible things that happen in their lives. They hold on to them like a security blanket. And then when something good happens, we're like, this can't be, like we're almost afraid to embrace it because we're waiting for the next shoe to drop. And I believe, like you said, maybe it's not those huge affirmations, like I am fabulous or I'm wonderful. And, when you don't really feel that or believe it, but it's that ability to believe that with small steps, things can actually get better.
Yes. Yes.
So you mentioned that you started to speak differently to yourself. What are some other things that you did? And this is for those folks who are in that moment. And I know I've had that moment in my life where everything that I did before did not seem to work. I've had, I've had it twice in my life where there's that moment where I felt like I was standing in a hallway and all the doors were closed, but I was out in a hallway. And everything that I relied on, work, my personal life, like those things, all were very, very different and felt closed off to me. And I think that's something that many of us do experience. If you had to come up with like the three things that you did just to help you to move forward, what would those be?
You mentioned I started talking to myself different. There's actually a couple steps before that. And so the step number one was what I mentioned. I actually call it the crucial first step, which is just acknowledging and admitting and recognizing what we talked about before, that there is this space between what happens to you and what you feel, and that it's your thoughts that live in that space that are determining what you feel. That was probably the biggest piece. Without that, none of the other pieces work, right? You got to know that the power is in you to change this, that you are the thinker of your thoughts, and that it's your thoughts determining your feelings. So that was the first one. The second, also really important, and even before talking to myself, is listening to myself.
Oh,
We don't realize, we said this earlier, but we don't realize what we are saying. We're so used to saying it. We're so used to hearing it. We don't even realize what it is so often. Um, uh, Even something like, I'm so afraid. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. I don't know what to do. Even that on loop will disempower you, will terrify you, right? Um, so listening to myself, listening to the words, and recognizing what feelings they are creating in me, right? That's the other thing. We gaslight ourselves. We have all these feelings, but we like, la, 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 I'm not going to listen to them, right? We don't even notice. And so sometimes I just have to say, oh, Rhonda, you're afraid. Okay. Okay. That makes sense why you've been procrastinating all day. That makes sense why you didn't, do whatever, or why you were short-tempered with your son, or whatever the thing is. That makes sense. You're afraid. Okay. Let's start with that. Like, so feeling your feelings, listening to what thoughts were there before those feelings. And then, yes, changing the talk. But by the time you get to changing the thought, after you've done these, the crucial first step, and then feeling your feelings, and then hearing what words and what thoughts created those feelings, by the time it's time to change your thoughts, to me, it's like a much easier thing to do by then. And also, then actions come after that, right? Then you have the feeling of, you know what I'll do? I'll call that person today. You know what I'll do? I'll clean out that closet today. You know what I'll do? I'll go out and buy healthy food so my fridge is stocked today. Like, all of a sudden, the ideas start pouring in of I'm going to take a walk today. I'm going to take a nap today.
yes.
Or conversely, I'm going to wake up at 5 tomorrow and knock that out before the house wakes up, or whatever. Like, all of a sudden, all of those ideas start flooding in once you've sort of calmed the seas of all that goes on with us, that we don't pay attention to. It's happening in the background, and we're not conscious of it.
Yeah. What you're describing is the way that one would treat a very dear friend,
How about that?
you know,
How about that? Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
taking the Shiro cape off
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I know I've done it at,
Yeah.
you know, at other times in my life where I knew that I was a mess,
Yeah.
but let someone with a problem get near me.
Yeah. How about
Let me help you.
you got all kinds of answers?
I'm listening.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
helping you with your negative self-talk.
Yeah.
I'm making sure that you know that someone's there for you. And I think
Yeah.
that if we were willing to do that ourselves,
Yes.
for ourselves.
Yes. And just to jump in, I'm sorry to cut you off. As a friend, you're doing that for somebody, whoever it is. But the truth is, you can't do like they can't hear you, right? We must do this for ourselves. That's really the truth. And yes, we can be generous and helpful, but the truth is, we know when we've been, just like you said, when we've been struggling, ain't nobody can tell us nothing,
No,
right? Right.
no.
So that it really is an inside job, and it's a practice. I share this because it is my passion. I feel like it's my life's purpose, but also I'm practicing it for myself all day, every day. I mean, whatever's happening, fires in Los Angeles, like whatever the thing is, things are happening in our world, and we have to constantly figure out how we're going to navigate them mentally. And so I'm constantly looking at what I call the AST, the automatic screwy thought that comes into my mind and triggers feelings in me, fear, sadness, anger, whatever it is. And then replacing it with the INT, the intentionally nourishing thought. And I'm doing that all day, every day, whether it be in my relationships, my husband, my son, whether it be big national things like these fires in LA, whether it be, whether it be somebody out in the street, it doesn't matter. It happens I'm constantly practicing that and constantly listening and speaking differently to myself, you know?
Do you know that we have a line of Shaping Freedom wellness products? Each are beautifully crafted and designed to support you in cherishing your mind, body, emotions, and soul. Carve out a sanctuary in your life with our Luxe sustainable yoga and meditation mats, essential oil candles, and more. Embrace self-care and reflection with every item, lovingly created to enhance your daily practice of spending time on you. Elevate your wellness journey with Shaping Sanctuary Collection because you deserve to feel balanced, nurtured, and inspired. Visit shapingsanctuary.com for more information. It is clear to me that the woman sitting in front of me, on the screen in front of me, is a woman who has and is learning the depth of who you are and who you were created to be on this planet. And that the work that you're doing through your work around mindset and helping people to really discover themselves, it's clear that this is you. Have you always known that? So I know you were acting, and you do act. I know you obviously come from a very, very creative family, and I know you've done other things, but I wonder when you knew that this was who you are.
Yes, that's such an excellent question. No is the answer. No. And that's why I was so moved by your intro and so moved now again, because it's only in moments like this that you really get to see, gosh, look from whence I've come, because I really was not that. I mean, into my adulthood, into my 20s, I was very triggered by the world around me, very triggered negatively and positively, right? Something went well and I was happy. Something went bad and I was unhappy. I had none of that freedom, none of that power that we were talking about earlier. I had none of it. I was just like like a ping pong ball on the sea, kind of going wherever someone led me to go or something led me to go. I had no idea that I had the ability to be centered and grounded no matter what happened around me. I had no idea. I I assumed that if my friends were depressed, I should be depressed. If my friends were sick, I should be sick. Like I did not know at all that it could be different than that. Until this moment that I described earlier, this moment of um, of this depression that came over me, and me having to pull myself out of that because it was scary. I'd never been in that place before. I know there are people who are in that place or have touched that place.
Mm-hmm.
You really know that no one can get you out of it,
Yeah.
and and so as I started to pull myself out of it, I never wanted to let myself go back in. I'm very careful with what when I see things, when I see myself starting to go down, I do this work. I do this work. I do this. That's why I said it's a practice that I practice all the time because I can't allow myself to go there again. It's just too dangerous for me and too dark for me. But no, to your point, I did not know. I spent the first 20 some odd years of my life allowing my outer world to dictate my inner world because I did not know any better. Um, I didn't know. And now I've started to, learn so much about this idea of the power of thought and about this idea, what I call the magic of mindset. But this idea that, we don't have to, um, slip because someone else is slipping. We don't have to, like, matter of fact. And then there was a big realization, and your friend is slipping, right? And you want to help. And somehow we've gotten it in our minds that if they're slipping, we should be slipping. So because we love them or because we don't want them to feel like they're slipping alone or whatever the thing is, right? When the truth of the matter is we can't help them if our feet aren't grounded,
Absolutely.
right?
If you jump in the boat, you're both drowning.
We'll both be slipping,
Yeah.
right? That was huge for me. I had a girlfriend talk to me just the other day over the holidays, and she said, I love what you talk about, but it sounds a little selfish. She said, I wish I could be that, but I feel like it feels selfish to me.
Yes.
And I used to believe that. And when she said it, I realized that I've grown from there because I know I can't get sick enough to help a sick person. I can't get weak enough to help somebody who's weak, or I can't struggle enough to help someone who's struggling. It's the opposite. If I'm scared, I want someone near me who is strong and courageous. If my, if I can't get my footing, I want to know that you've got your footing, right? So that's, that's what I started to do in this last 20 something years, is starting to get myself together because that's the only way that I can be of help. That's the only way I can be of help to the people I love, of help to myself, and all of that. So no, I was not always this. This has come as it's come because it was necessary to come.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that because I think there are so many folks, especially people who talk about being an empath and wearing the holding and burden of other people's negative emotions,
Yeah.
sadness, hurt, fear, on their shoulders as a badge of honor.
Yes.
And we do tend to take on or feel other people's energy. We're all energy. Everything's energy, right? And we can feel or experience another person's energy. But I'm not doing you a favor.
Yeah.
When I do that. I think I think for people, especially those folks who are empaths, I think there needs to be some selfishness, because I think that's so much of what's happening in the world today is the result of a negative belief or a negative self-talk gone
Yeah.
wild.
Gone wild.
And right. And it's just
Yeah.
snowballing and
Yeah.
picking up people along the way.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's happening without question,
Yeah.
without consideration, because there's this kind of, what do you call it when the pack is moving together, that it's almost like a group think. And that's not the word that I wanted to use, but it's the closest one. There's like this group think, like things are horrible, things are sad, let's all get on that boat together because this is how we exist as a collective. When I believe very deeply that it takes one of us to decide to do something different. It takes one of us to be willing to look at that very same thing that we all see, that so many of us see as this horrible thing, and we're just going to lay down and wallow in that. The world changes when individuals choose to change. The world changes when a lady who's going through a hard time decides, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
And it's not, like you said before, it's not easy, but it is simple. It's like, we don't all have to be miserable.
Yeah.
Guess what? That does not have to be our story for this chapter in human history. We don't.
Yeah.
And I'll take it a step further. We can be filled with joy.
Yeah. And I'll take it a step further. We have to be miserable. We can be filled with joy, and we still can be active.
Absolutely.
In changing the things we don't. I think that we've conflated the idea that in order to make change in the world, we have to somehow be depressed. I like to say also in my trainings, when you feel better, you do better.
Absolutely.
You think clearly. You see more options around you. You see more avenues. Like, there's so many things that happen when you are not terrified, depressed,
angry,
filled with anxiety, all of these things. Then you can make the change, because I've been accused of, oh, well, you're just going to sit back and be happy.
Girl.
Uh-oh.
Come on now. I've heard that. that.
And so, my argument is, feeling better within myself allows me to now have the strength, the breath, the peace of mind, the clarity of mind to see what to do next. What are the options?
That's right.
It's like panic. When you're panicking, you can't think. You can't think. If you're drowning, and trying to get air, or if you're in a car that's going under, can't think.
Or grabbing the person next to you around the throat, so you both go down in a panic.
I'm with it about making positive change, and I'm with it. But I don't think that comes out of these, let's call them negative feelings. The depression, the anger, the fear, all of that.
Yeah. And I think there's a difference between joy and happy. Happy can be fleeting. It's that moment where I was happy a moment ago, where we were just laughing together in a moment. That's happy. Happy is, I don't know, being at a great party and having a great time. Joy is something different. Joy, I believe, is something that you allow that you have to be willing to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to think that, and I used to allow other people to have me think that there was something wrong with me,
Mm-hmm.
that I just didn't get it. I just didn't understand. Okay. That I wasn't taking all this seriously. And I thought it was Brooklyn because I'm from Brooklyn. And I've lived in the Northeast. I'm a Northeast person. And then I moved out into different areas of the world and around different communities. And I started to realize that that was not specific to my New York peeps.
Mm-hmm.
So many of us are caught up in this idea, like we're motivated by negativity. We're motivated by fear, like by being afraid and by being angry. That's the appropriate reaction.
Mm-hmm.
And I disagree profusely. I think that is, yes, maybe a reaction, but the appropriate response is to choose how I'm going to respond to the things that happen in the world. And like you said, you cannot make the choice that's in your highest and best good when you're flailing around,
You can't.
when you're caught up with the pack,
You can't.
because there's no thought to that. There's no power in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I believe, dilute the magnificence of who we were each created to be,
Yes.
which
Yes.
is
Yes.
powerful,
Yes.
thoughtful,
Yes.
profound, courageous, all of those wonderful things. We don't get to experience the breadth of the human experience when we're stuck on mad, angry, panicked, or any of the things that fall within fear. I used to read in the Bible, there's no love in fear. And I didn't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand it until much later. There's love, there's
And this
fear.
choose. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got to choose.
You can't be in each, you can't be in them, both of them at the same time.
You have to choose. And that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like fear is all that other stuff. But if you change your mindset, and if you understand that by changing your thoughts, your mind will get reprogrammed,
That's right.
recalibrated,
That's
you
right.
become realigned,
Mm-hmm.
and then the rest of your world changes,
And everything changes.
and everything changes, and you
Yeah.
can step out of the experience that you were in.
Yes. 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 Yes.
I think there are a lot of people who do experience that moment that you mentioned, Rhonda, and they find a way to maybe come out of the symptoms of it for a moment,
Mm-hmm.
but they continue with the same thing. They just become more functional. And I commend you for doing the work and being willing to look inside yourself at what you were afraid of and what was happening, to be able to turn things around for yourself and then to decide to help other people. How beautiful.
Thank you. I do think that that's the only response to having learned something, especially something as profound and life changing for me as it was, is to share it and to say. But to your point, we so often think we're the only ones. You said that earlier. We think we're the only ones going through something. And sometimes we think we're, that what the way we got out of it, maybe that's not helpful for people. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that's just my thing or whatever. So I'm really thankful that, because of people in my life, people on my team who said to me, this is important, Rhonda. Yes, I see that this is what you've done, to bring yourself out, but people don't know this, or people don't know how to practice it, or they might know that they should do it, but they don't know how to do it. And so that's been really our biggest thing, within me and my team, is showing people the steps, how to do it, how to start walking through that. And to that point, I would like to offer your audience, Lisane, one of my courses, which is called The Crucial First Step. And I'd like to offer it to them for free.
Thank you.
Yes, there's a coupon code and it's break free. BREAKFREE. Break free.
Thank you. On behalf of my audience, thank you so much. That's so generous.
I don't know if it's cap specific, but if it is, the B is capital and then everything is lowercase. And they can find the course. It's a mini course. They can find the course on rhondaross.net. And when they get there, they'll go and they'll put in the coupon code and it'll be free. But this is what I want to show people. Yes, we need to agree that it's needed. And this is a wonderful practice that can help us, stop ourselves from drowning and be sturdy for our loved ones and all of that. But there are steps that can help it be easier. And so that's what this course does. It's called The Crucial First Step.
Thank you so much. That is so generous of you.
Happy to do that.
HeraHub Carlsbad is a co-working space and member community designed to empower entrepreneurs. More than just a workspace, HeraHub Carlsbad is a business accelerator and a connected network of successful entrepreneurs. Imagine a collaborative, serene, and spa-inspired environment where you can thrive. Our unique community allows each member to be both a guide and a student, fostering leadership and continuous growth for both you and your business. Experience an uplifting, supportive atmosphere that will elevate your entrepreneurial journey. For more information about HeraHub Carlsbad or to schedule a tour, visit herahub.com/Carlsbad. We also have locations in Temecula, Irvine, Washington, D.C., and HeraHub Carlsbad is one of 3 HeraHub locations in San Diego, the others being in Mission Valley and La Jolla. Can you find a moment, even before going to LA and experiencing the depression that you were experiencing, was there a moment looking back where you maybe could have wrangled yourself in before you got that far?
I might need you to rephrase the question, but but before I do ask you that, I want to say the months and even maybe even several years, 2 to 3 years, maybe even more than that, actually, before I went to LA and had this depression, I was feeling good. And I was feeling good because things were going well. I didn't know that that's why. I mean, things were going well and I was feeling good, right? I had I was a year, 2 years out of maybe 3 years after graduating from college. I had a contract job on NBC. I was a professional actress and I was nominated and I was met the love of my life and I got married and things were going well. So I felt good. What I didn't know is that they were tied. I didn't have any autonomy from my inner world was tied to my outer world. So when my outer world was going well, I felt great. So it's not like I had 20, 30 years of depression and then it changed. I was feeling fine because things were going fine, right? I think that is something that happens a lot for a lot of people. And because of that, they don't necessarily notice that they don't have the autonomy or the freedom from, or the disconnection from between the outer world and the inner world, right? So I felt fine. Things happened. I got in fights with people. I got in arguments with people. Things happened, but in general, I was okay because my outer world was okay. It was only when my outer world was stripped from me, right? The job, the accolades, the approval from agents and casting people and networks and all of that. The dream of getting pregnant, like for 12 years, I was like, what is happening? But when all of that was stripped away, could I still know who I was? Could I still feel good about myself? And the answer was no, I couldn't. I couldn't, because they were inextricably linked. And in that moment is when I said, I have to sever it. My joy, to your word, my joy, my peace is the word that really I resonate with. My peace cannot be dependent on anything that's happening outside of me, especially anything I have no control over that's happening outside of me. It can't be. And so, to your question, you said, was there a time I could have wrangled it in? There were moments that my outside world, as anybody's outside world, didn't go exactly as planned. And I would not feel good, feel angry, feel scared, whatever. They usually passed. Nothing as big and dark and deep as what happened in 2000 for me. But there were times I didn't. I could have wrangled it in, but I didn't. Mostly what I did was try to fix everyone else, try to fix the thing the circumstance that I thought was causing me to feel all the things, right? So for the most part, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I was still very outward thinking, trying to fix my circumstances, not realizing that there's this space and I have control over the thoughts that are in that space. So no, I had moments I could have, but I didn't.
So we are starting 2025. Rhonda, what's up for you this year?
Oh, okay.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. I want to hear what's up for you too. The main thing that's up for me this year is that I'm expanding my business and my reach, and I'm moving more into speaking, keynote speaking, conference, corporate conferences, that sort of thing. That to me is so exciting. And if I can just back up, one of the big things that happened for me last year, 2024, is that I launched a series of shows called This Makes Me Feel Like Beep, an evening of music and the magic of mindset. And in these shows, because I'm a singer-songwriter, I merged both my music with all of these thoughts that we're discussing today on mindset. And it was a show that was equal parts song and equal parts talk and storytelling. And it was a huge success, and I will continue it and bring it back and travel it around the country and the world. And I'm excited about it. And it was really, really a huge success. And what it did was it made me realize that there really is a space for the merging of these two things, the merging of the music and the mindset. And it doesn't have to happen just at a supper club in the evening. It can happen at conferences and retreats and all the places. And so that's really where I'm expanding in 2025. And already so many requests have come in. I'm speaking next week, and just like so many requests are coming in. So I'm really, really excited to share that merging in 2025.
Congratulations.
Yes. What about you?
Yeah. Expansion. The same. I spent a lot of time working on a lot of other things that were very beautiful and that felt really good. And this year and the years moving forward are really focused on building, shaping freedom, on expanding expanding the message that, the relationship with ourselves is the most important relationship that we have, and the quality of that. is reflected in our world outside of us. And so programs around that, expanding my product line, speaking engagements, I did. That was what I wanted last year. And you have to think about it. You have to know what you want. That's a mindset thing too. You have to be clear about what you want in order to get it. And so it's expansion. I would love to come to one of your, I went and looked online and I saw all of these wonderful experiences that you created, and I will absolutely find myself in an audience when you do one. Yeah. How can we support you, Rhonda? How can we best support you?
Oh boy, thank you. I have a community. You mentioned it in the intro, the Magic of Mindset community, and there we come together as a group, as a tribe, and we talk about all of these things on a regular basis. We created it just this past summer to bridge the time gap between these shows that I was offering, because people were getting so inspired and moved and motivated at these shows, and then we're like left with nothing to do. So we found this community. It's a podcast, but it's a private podcast, so it's not out on the podcast web. Um, but it's still me talking about all of these things. So that is also on rhondaross.net. And so people can find that there, and people can also just join, the broader community by by putting themselves on my email list, and then they'll know everything that I'm doing. And I do a, a range of things, just like you do. I do a range of things, everything from the shows to the podcast, and the community, or to just communications. We do Zooms, we do workshops, we do pop-ups, we do all kinds of things where whenever anything happens that I feel like, oh, we have to get together and talk about this, we do that. And so, yeah, that's what I would say. Find me at rhondaross.net and let's be connected.
I love that. We need community. We need community. We need tribe. We've always needed community and tribe. And I think that this is an opportunity for us as a collective world to find those communities that feel good in our soul. And you're my people. You're my people. And I have a feeling we will speak again, but whether we do or not, I am so inspired by you. And it always feels good to know that there are humans out in the world with whom there's a connection and there's an alignment.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The only part that I want to push back on is that we might not talk again. That ain't gonna happen. You are stuck with me.
Okay. So many, many years ago, I think it was right after your brother was born, my father played tennis with
which brother? Evan Ross?
I think Evan.
Okay. Okay.
My father and stepmom played tennis with your stepdad, I think.
Bob.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Many years ago.
And that was in Connecticut or in LA?
It was in Connecticut. Okay. And I'm a Borum Hill Groves,
Oh yeah, you said that.
Yeah. And played. So my dad came home, told us, that this happened at the dinner table, and that they had dinner after or whatever. And it was right after, I think it was Evan. Years later, literally like a year and a half ago, I walked your sister and Trevor Noah through the exhibition in LA. Okay. 3 weeks later, and that was just, the PR company we were working with said, hey, these, two folks want to walk through. You're around because I live in San Diego. Come up to LA. And I'm like, okay, cool. And then, I found out who it was, and I was all like fangirling, like, oh my God. Right. Yeah. So that happened. Then maybe a few weeks later, I was at Church Boutique in LA. And I saw these two works on the wall. So I said to Rodney Burns, Yeah. So Rodney Burns, who owns Church Boutique in Hollywood, in West Hollywood, wherever it is. It's in LA.
Yeah.
I said, I have to have those two works. And he says, oh my gosh, I know the artist. He's going to be so happy that you wanted these works.
Amazing.
So I'm like, I need to know who the artist is because I like to know the story behind.
That's amazing.
Right? He says, Evan Ross is the artist. And I'm like, oh, Diana Ross's son. And he's like, yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know he was I didn't know. Okay. Yeah. Love the two works. And it's like a grandfather, a grandson.
Yes.
They're hanging in my home right now. And
there's you got them?
Yes, ma'am. And there's this beautiful framed letter that accompanies the works. So I said to him, Rodney, I want those works. He's like, okay, fine. I get the two works. So bear with me for a sec, right? So this is all in the same day and I'm hanging out. And I don't know if you've ever been to Church Boutique, but it's like an experience.
Yes, I have. I know exactly where they are.
So I'm hanging where they were because they're here now. So I'm hanging out and I'm, laughing. And so Rodney is on the phone with someone and he's like bantering with someone. And the person he was bantering with is someone who my sister adores, Lenny Kravitz, right? And so out of that, there was some party that was happening someplace.
This is
so I go to this party, and the only reason I'm mentioning Lenny is because Lenny's like, oh, there's a party happening. So Rodney, invite them to this party. So I go to this party with my sister. And I'm like, I cannot go unless my sister comes. Because if my sister finds out that I'm at Lenny Kravitz and she wasn't there, she will kill me. So it's like, okay, cool. So we go to this party. So I'm standing at this party, and just kind of hanging out with my sister and my brother-in-law. And Rodney walks over with your brother. And he says,
this is the woman who bought it.
And he's like, Evan wanted to meet you because he knows that you bought this work, right?
I cannot believe this story.
So here we are. I guess it was a couple of months ago. And while I have followed you, I've stalked you,
Amazing.
Someone says, oh, hey, do you want to, this is someone that I think you should talk to on the podcast. And it's you.
It's amazing. That's an incredible story.
And I'll add one last very important piece. Okay. And that is that your mother's rendition of Dorothy. In The Wiz, the story is one of the most in my life, has been an incredibly impactful story, incredibly impactful. And I watched that movie like 40 something times in the front row of the Duffield Theater in New York, in Brooklyn, with my sister. I never dress up for Halloween, ever. And last year, 23, I dressed up for the very first time. And this is who
oh my God.
So
it's amazing.
Yeah. So I don't know what there is. That's just what's happened.
All of that I'm so glad you shared that with me.
Thank you. Because I didn't know whether I should or not, but I'm glad that it felt,
And I was with Evan through the creation of those pieces.
Really?
So, So first of all, he's always been an incredibly gifted visual artist. He's incredibly gifted. He always has been from a young boy. And I'm so thankful that he continues it, even with his acting and his music and all of his stuff. He continues it. And my son is also a visual artist, and Evan had recommended a specific studio in LA for my son to do some of his pieces. And we were doing them. And then Evan said, I want to actually come in and meet you guys one day and work on some of my pieces. And he brought in those two.
Wow.
And he worked on them. And I just said, these are incredible. And then he told me that Rodney took them and put them up. And then we went to an event at church where with Lenny was there and Rodney was there. And that's when I saw them up there. So I know I can visualize everything you're talking about, everything you're talking about. They're very special pieces.
They
I'm
are.
so glad you have them.
They
They're
are.
very special. They're very special. And I know
are.
and I know what he wrote. I know the letter you're
Yep.
talking about. I know all of it. I know everything you're talking about. I'm just so happy you have them.
I am
Gosh,
too. I am too.
so happy you have them. And yes to my mother's rendition and her version of Home, but the video specifically. It's everything. It's
Yes.
everything.
Yes. So it has that I used to watch The Wizard of Oz as a small child, and this version, The Wiz, and your mother's playing of Dorothy and the way her heart was in it just has provided such guidance in my life. Such guidance in my life and such clarity. And I would even venture to say that it's part of how I see the world today, and part of the reason why I do the work that I do, because I've had this opportunity to step out to see,
Yeah.
To see it.
All of that is so beautiful.
So I feel very honored to have been able to spend this time with you.
Oh, I'm so glad.
And
I'm really so glad to be connected with you, and we
yes,
will make sure to
yes,
connect for real,
for real,
because
like New York for real.
yeah, New York for real. That's right.
New York for real. Okay. Yes, for
New
sure.
York for real.
I'll make sure that you get that information as soon as we're done.
Yeah, I would love that.
Okay. Rhonda, thank you so much. Thank you for doing the incredible
Thank
work
you.
that you do in the world. Thank you for your vulnerability, for showing up, for your walks and your talks. People hear them, whether they like or say anything or not. I know that you are putting amazing
Thank you
work
for
and beautiful energy into the world. And thank you for doing that, because we
Thank
need the
you for
world
that.
we need the world to start to repair itself.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And I will say all the same to you. Thank you for doing the work that you do, and this podcast and all of the other things that you're doing, and that you just giving, making space for these kinds of conversations, because they're so important.
Yeah. So friends, RhondaRoss.net, go there and join that tribe and community. And please receive Rhonda's very generous gift of attendance to the Crucial First Step workshop using Break Free as the code. We'll actually put it into the show notes.
Great.
And Rhonda, thank you. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year to you, sis. Happy New Year.
A huge thank you to Rhonda Ross. I appreciated that conversation so much and look forward to hearing more about what she has going on and to what it is that she's bringing to the world. Mindset is such an important thing. And I remember her mention that it's really important for us to pay attention to those small positive steps that we can take on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to conquer everything in one moment. Just take small positive steps forward and you will get to the place that you know that you want to be. Thank you, friends, for listening. As always, I appreciate it so much. Please share and like this episode if it resonates with you. And thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat, and this is Shaping Freedom.